Om Jnana Shalakai Chakshurmilitam Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namini. Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarini. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gauravantabhya. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So thank you very much for coming today. So today I'll discuss about how to be Krishna conscious while facing the various tempting or attractive things in the world. So just put simplified, I'm going to talk about cricket and Bhagavad Gita. So in the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna asks the interesting question. We'll start with this. How many chapters are there in the Gita? 18. Okay. How many questions are there in the Gita? 12. Okay. It's actually 17. So, let's look at this question. We won't recite it multiple times, but let's recite it together once. Katham vidyam aham yogims Tvam sada parichintayan Keshu keshu cha bhaveshu Chintyosi bhagavan maya. So Arjuna is asking here, Katham vidyam. Can you tell me? See, vidya means knowledge, but vidya also means to know. So here vidya is being used more as a verb rather than as a noun. Katham vidyam aham yogims tvam sada parichintayan. How can I remember you always? And specifically, keshu keshu cha bhaveshu. So bhava means material existence over here. Like in Sanskrit, English, like in any other language, sometimes the same words can have multiple meanings. So for example, if we consider in English, the word run is said to have maximum meaning, has 580 meanings. So I am going for a run. My washing machine has stopped running. Who is running for the president's post now? I am running because that person is running for the president's post. That person ran away from the country. So the same word can have many different meanings. Somebody can say, because my car is not running, I have to be running now. So generally we look at the context and then we understand which meaning is to be applied where. So now in English there are many words which have many meanings. So like but the run is the only word has more than 500 meanings. But in Sanskrit there are more than 500 words which have more than 500 meanings. So now this adds to the richness of the language, and that allows the possibility for poetry, for literary devices, for figures of speech, for beauty and artistry in the language to come up when there's a lot of subtlety and complexity to the language. But then simultaneously, it can also lead to ambiguity. Ambiguity means confusion. So now in the verse which you discussed, there's the word yogi. Now what does the word yogi mean normally? Sorry? Sorry? Yogi simply means practitioner of yoga. Yes. So practitioner of yoga. But interestingly, in this verse, Katham Vidyam Aham Yogim Tvam Sada Parichintayan. Yogi is being referred to Krishna. Now, Krishna is Yogeshwara. He is Yogi Raj. Why would Krishna be considered to be yogi? Katham Vidyam Aham Yogim Tvam Sada Parichintayan. How can I remember you always? So, to understand this, we have to look at the secondary meaning of words. Generally, if we hear a sentence and it doesn't make sense, then you say, okay, which meaning? If a mother tells a child, don't hit the bat with your bat, hit the ball with your bat. Now, what does that mean? Don't hit the bat with your bat. So, bat refers to an insect that hangs upside down. Don't hit the bat with your bat. The bat is used to hit the ball. So, we look at the context and we understand the meaning. So, yogi, if you see, what it refers to is that generally yoga means connection. And what we normally think is that, say, we are here and say Krishna is here. And yoga means we are trying to connect with Krishna. But actually the Gita reveals that even Krishna is trying to connect with us. And in fact, Krishna is trying much more to connect with us than we are trying to connect with him. So here, when he's using the word yogi, he's saying, Krishna, you are telling me to remember you constantly. That is one of the consistent messages of the Gita. That try to remember Krishna constantly. Just before this, the Chatushloki Gita has been there. In the Chatushloki Gita also Krishna begins with Matchitta Madgata Prana Bodhayanta Parasparam. So Matchitta Madgata Prana comes in. So he's told, always remember me. So Arjuna is asking Krishna that if you're telling me to remember you, are you doing anything to make it easy for me to remember you? So I am trying to connect with you. Are you also trying to connect with me? So Katham Vidyam Aham Yogim. That's why yogi. He's referring to Krishna as a yogi. You want me to be a yogi. You want me to seek a connection with you. But are you also seeking connection with me? Are you making it easy for me to connect with you? Katham Vidyam Aham Yogim Tvam Sada Parichintayan. For me to be able to remember you constantly, as you asked me to do. And then specifically ask, Keshu Keshu Cha Bhaveshu. So the word bhav, again, I was talking about the same thing, that words can have many different meanings. Generally, bhav means emotion, like we have bhava bhakti. But bhava also means nature. That mad bhavam agataha, they'll attain my nature. And in this particular case, bhava refers to material existence or material nature. So sometimes we have to look at context to know what the word means. So keshu keshu cha bhaveshu chintyosi bhagwanvaya. He's asking specifically, in material existence, how can I remember you? When I'm encountering the material world, at that time, how can I be remembering you? Because in one sense, Krishna seems to have given two opposing directives to Arjuna. And that has what has confused him to some extent. In fact, that is a consistent confusion for Arjuna. Because on one side, Krishna is telling Arjuna, okay, let's begin with the beginning. And then we'll see how Arjuna's confusion continues, but due to different reasons. See, Arjuna is caught between basically two choices. He says, fight, or what is the other? Sorry? Okay. Go to the forest. Renounce, or basically you can put it, don't fight. But we can take it beyond a specific context and say, so we can say work or renounce. This is these two options. And remember yesterday I talked about this. If he's working, he's doing his Kshatriya Dharma. And if he's renouncing, he will do his Kula Dharma. How will he do his Kula Dharma? Because at least he will not be fighting against his own Kula. So he's thinking these are the two options for me. Now what happens is Arjuna is thinking he has these two options. So work or renounce. But Krishna tells Arjuna that actually you don't have two options, you have four options. What are the four options? He says there can be attached work. Then there can be detached work. Then there can be artificial renunciation. And then what will be the last one? Real renunciation. Is it? So we could go into the verses of the Gita wherever these particular options come up. But broadly speaking, he talks about these four options. Now, based on your understanding of the Gita, which of the options does Krishna not recommend? Okay, let's start. Attach work, no. Then, yes. Now you don't need spiritual knowledge. You need common sense only for this. Okay. Artificial renunciation. Now, among the remaining two, yeah. So, okay. Both of them are Krishna recommends? No? Then which one? Oh, okay. How many say detached work? Okay. How many say real renunciation? You know, I was doing this exercise once, and that one person didn't raise any hand at all. So I said, why? He says, I am renounced from both options. So basically, Krishna says this is good, but this is better. He says, if you say that, he says in the start of the fifth chapter, he says, Ubhayasto, both are good. But Shreya is this one, this is better. Now, why is this better? For multiple reasons, because Krishna wants Arjuna to do his responsibility in the world. Krishna wants Arjuna to establish dharma in the world. Krishna wants Arjuna to set an example for society. Many reasons. But detached work is what he's recommending. Now, to expand this further, Krishna talks about this detached work also at multiple levels. So we could say that both of you know that there are broadly four paths that Krishna talks about in the Gita. Which are the four paths? Okay, let's see. Now, among these four levels, where will Karma Yoga fall? Karma Yoga. Detached work. If it's yoga, it's already detached work, isn't it? Karma Yoga. So that then, which are the other paths? Jnana Yoga, where will it fall? If somebody actually practicing Jnana Yoga, then it's real renunciation. Then Dhyan Yoga, again real renunciation. Bhakti Yoga, out of syllabus. Yeah, it is actually detached work. I'll explain how. So Krishna says this renunciation is good. Dhyan Yoga, Dhyan Yoga, the renunciation is good. But if you'll see, in the sixth chapter, he talks about Dhyan Yoga, but in the sixth chapter he concludes with Yoginam api sarvesham madgatinatapnam. All the yogis, the best is one who is devoted to me. And in that way he says, Dhyan Yoga culminates in Bhakti Yoga. So Dhyan Yoga culminates in Bhakti Yoga. And similarly, so he says, okay, I'll explain this. Let me explain this rather than simply right. So detached work, it can be done at various levels. And it starts from Karma Yoga and it can go to Bhakti Yoga. So a person can do detached work at all these levels. You can, so in Karma Yoga, a person is simply detached from the results of the work. Now, what they are offering that work to, what cause they are offering that work to, that may vary. So somebody may just be charitable. They earn a lot of money, but they don't use it for their own pleasure. They give it to humanitarian causes. They use it for social work, for some nationalistic causes. So that's not exactly Karma Yoga, but it is in that direction. That is, that they are connecting with something higher. And Bhakti Yoga is, they're offering it to the Supreme Lord. So why is Bhakti Yoga considered higher? Is it just because we are practicing Bhakti Yoga, so we think Bhakti Yoga is highest? It's not like that. It is in detached work, it is okay, I am detached from the fruits of the work. So actually, when we say detached work, it's not the precise language. We are not detached from the work. We are detached from the results of the work. And that also not detached from the results of the work doesn't mean we don't care for the results. Rather, we work carefully, we work responsibly, but once the results come, we don't use the results for our own enjoyment. Use the results for a higher cause. So what makes us higher is that in from karma yoga to bhakti yoga, in all of these, we are offering the result for some higher cause, for some higher purpose. But in bhakti yoga, we offer the results to the highest cause. Krishna is the well-wisher of everyone. If somebody is detached and they're offering their results to their maybe community or then a country, that's good. But I may love my country, and that means I hate any country that opposes my country. So it's not completely selfless. It's not the highest level of selflessness. So bhakti yoga is the highest because we offer the results to the highest cause. So here, now what Krishna says is, you can practice Jnana Yoga, you can practice Dhyana Yoga. So, but he says eventually all of them will culminate in Bhakti Yoga. So Krishna talks about how Karma Yoga leads to Bhakti Yoga. That is basically, you can say, this is a journey from chapters 1 to 5. Then how Dhyana Yoga culminates in Bhakti Yoga. That is basically chapter 6. And then how Jnana Yoga culminates in Bhakti Yoga. That is chapter 13 to 18. So in this way, what Krishna says is all other paths culminate in bhakti. And now in this, now when Krishna is saying this, he doesn't anywhere condemn any of these paths. That's important. Krishna values those paths. So some people say that Bhagavad Gita teaches different paths for different people. Well, yes and no. The Gita appreciates whichever path somebody is following if they are pursuing something higher than worldly pleasures. That is noble, Krishna says. It's good. At the same time, the Gita very categorically recommends a particular path. Sarva dharma prityaja is very categorical. So we can say the Gita is inclusive, but not inconclusive. It is inclusive. That means it includes people who are following different paths. But just because it includes people who are following different paths doesn't mean that it rejects it rejects the idea of that one path being the best or one path being recommended. The Gita has its flow and it has its conclusion. So it is both inclusive and conclusive, not inconclusive. So now continuing this theme. So what Krishna is doing is Arjuna is thinking that you have two options: work or fight. Work or renounce. Krishna says you can work with renunciation. That is detached work. And detached work can be just we are detached from the fruits, or we are offering the fruits to me. So when Krishna, now how does one offer the fruits to Krishna? So there is the well-known verse 8.7. Anyone remember what it is? Yes, tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara yudhyacha. Now this verse is like a very direct instruction. See, all the verses in the Gita are not instructive. Some are simply descriptive. Dehi nosmin yatha dehe. For example, that is the verse is a description that the soul remains the same while the body changes. Now, some verses which are instructive are especially important. Like even in the class, there may be many points discussed, but maybe in the class there is a call for action. This is what we should do. So that is especially important, isn't it? So now this instruction seems to be at one level having two contradictory components to it. What is the next line of this verse? Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu. So anusmara. So mam anusmara. And the other part is yudhyacha. So yudhya, fight. So remember me and fight. Now, how exactly is this to be done? If you read the Mahabharata, it is not that when Arjuna is shooting arrows, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. He's not chanting while shooting arrows. What is he doing? And Krishna is telling, remember me and fight. What does he want us to do actually? Is it that we have to become some kind of split personality? Half of us is remembering Krishna, half of us is actually working, doing our duty. Well, it's first of all very difficult. And suppose we had a heart attack and we had to do a heart surgery. And there's a doctor who happened to be a devotee. Now, would we want the doctor to chant Hare Krishna while doing surgery? Or actually do the surgery attentively? What do you think? Unless we are frustrated with life. So, now what we would want is that they do their job well, isn't it? So, our devotion or our remembrance of Krishna is not meant to detract us from our dedication to our work. Arjuna was completely dedicated to his work. When he was working wholeheartedly. He was fighting, he was completely fixed on fighting. So then, how are these two possible together? Ma manusmara yudhyacha. Remember me and fight. And Krishna is also saying, it is not that he's not saying you remember me sometime and fight the remaining time. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu. So he's saying always do both the things. So here we need to understand. Now you may wonder, I'm going to speak on cricket. Where is cricket till now? It's going to come. But I'll tell you why cricket can come in the Bhagavad Gita. So for that, you need to remember Gita first, then we'll remember cricket. So the idea is that what Krishna says is that when we are functioning in the world, when he talks about remembrance, what does remembrance mean? Remembrance itself can mean many different things. Say, for example, if somebody asks you, what is the square of 25? Now, those of us who have, some of us 625, okay, you may remember. Some of us, if I ask you square of 23, that will be a little bit more difficult. Is it like, is it factual remembrance? That we have to remember the facts. Oh, how many forests are there in Vrindavan? What is the name of Krishna's 12 Sakhis, or this was Sakhas, that's Sakhas? What does remembrance of Krishna mean? Are we talking about factual remembrance? Remembering facts and figures? Sometimes there may be academic scholars who may know more facts and figures about Krishna than we do. Yeah. So is it factual remembrance? That there may be scholars who may know more about Krishna than what we do. But they may not even have faith in Krishna's existence historically. What to speak of Krishna's transcendence as God? So, or is it like conceptual remembrance? Conceptual remembrance means, like, sometimes somebody asks us a question and then we don't know the answer, and then we ask somebody the answer and they give answer. And we like the answer. Yeah, this is a very good explanation. But then when next time somebody asks a question, yeah, I knew the answer, but I don't remember the answer now. So I've forgotten the concept. So it's conceptual remembrance. Well, no, we may forget concepts also. When Krishna is talking about remembrance, it is personal remembrance. Personal remembrance means remembrance of the person Krishna and of our relationship with that person. Generally, when we love someone, then we remember that person. Now, remembering means we may also remember some practical details about that person. Say, we may remember something important about them. But say, if we consider a child, say, consider the mother and the doctor who's treating the child. The doctor may know about the RBC count, WBC count, platelet count in the child much better than the mother. But who loves the child better? It's the mother. So when we're talking about remembrance, here it is not some factual remembrance. It is not even verbal remembrance. It's not just utterance of the holy name. One devotee once asked me, if remembrance is all that is important, if remembrance is all that is important, then what can we do? We can just enjoy materially throughout our life, and then when we had enough, Then you can take a gun out of your pocket, put it on your head. Hare Krishna! And press the bullet. And Antakale Chamameva Swaran Muktva Kalevaram. At the end of our life, we remember Krishna, we attain Krishna, he says. Will that happen? No, because we can't trick Krishna. The point of remembrance is, this remembrance indicates that Krishna is the foremost object of love for us. So, that's why I say personal remembrance. So normally, how does it work? That when there is love, then naturally there is remembrance of the person. When we love someone, we naturally remember that person. But because Krishna is the all-attractive supreme, his remembrance will also bring love for us. So the idea is that we all have an eternal relationship with Krishna. We are like iron filings. Krishna is like the magnet. And currently there is rust around us. That's why we are not attracted to Krishna. But the way to remain, normally iron filings, you remove the rust by some other means and then bring it close to the magnet. And then they will become attracted. But for us, the way to remove the iron filings, the way to remove the impurities is just by bringing ourselves closer to Krishna. So the remembrance that we talk about is an expression of love. Or if not an expression of love, it is an expression of the desire for love. We want to love Krishna, and that is why we want to remember him. So that's why this cannot be a matter of trick. So now, say if parents go for work if say both the parents are working, they go to their offices or jobs, workplaces, and the child is in school. Now the parents are busy working, but still at the back of their mind, the child is there. Okay, at this time, the child will be not taking lunch. Now the child will be in the bus, and the child will be coming home, and who will be there to take the child at home? So that is there. Krishna Chakravarti used the example that suppose a householder has to go away from their home for working to earn a living. And they may be far away from their family, but they're thinking of their family. I'm far away over here. Why? Because I want to take care of my family. I want to support my family financially. That's why I'm here. So here, when we talk about remembrance, it's the personal remembrance is, in one sense, in terms of it's remember our purpose. It means to remember our purpose. Say, okay, a businessman may be dealing with all kinds of difficult people. But when we're dealing with difficult people, they're thinking, this person is so disagreeable. I can just yell at this person and get over, let him to get lost. But no, it is through people like this, through customers like this, that I'm earning my livelihood. And I need to earn my livelihood so that I can take care of my family. Therefore, I'll be polite with this person. So when we talk about remembrance is in terms of the purpose. Why am I doing something? And that purpose may not always be in the forefront of our consciousness. It may be in the background, but it is there. It is not so much like a splitting of our consciousness. See, we human beings itself, we are capable of being aware of multiple things at the same time. Sometimes being aware of multiple things can be distracting, but sometimes it can just be a matter of training. If somebody is well trained in something, say somebody comes to a house, they are doing some house inspection, then they will be talking with the owners of the people residing in the house, but they're also looking at how is the fire hazard situation, how is the electricity wiring, what is all this. If somebody is come to inspect whether the house is child proofed, now they are trained, so they can observe things. So similarly, what Krishna is telling here is, when talk about remembrance, it's remember is in terms of the purpose. The purpose is we want to serve Krishna. Whatever we are doing is for the service of Krishna. So when Arjuna is fighting on the battlefield, he's fighting wholeheartedly. But at the back of his mind, he remembers that this is for the purpose of serving Krishna. That if this war, I am fighting for serving Krishna. So that's why at the end of the Gita, Arjuna says, Karishye Vachinam Tava. He's not saying I am a Kshatriya and therefore I will fight. He's saying I am fighting because I am your devotee. I want to do your will. And that is why I am fighting. So now, With this understanding that there is, for us, the more we have love for Krishna, the easier it will be for us to connect with Krishna wherever we are. It's like if the parents have gone for work to their workplace and they say something, oh, this toy, my child will like this toy. They're doing their work, they may be walking from work to one place to another, they see a toy, let's get this toy for my child. So what happens is they're connecting whatever they see with their object of love. So like that, a devotee connects. Even when a devotee is functioning in the world, a devotee is able to connect everything with Krishna. So now, how does Krishna tell Arjuna to reconcile Mam Anusmara Yudhyacha? So there is, if we consider this to be our consciousness, there is our consciousness, we could say, it's now this is a rough division, it's the action that we are doing. It's focused on that. But a part of our consciousness is focused on the purpose of the action. So we could say that the action and the purpose of the action, both are important for us. Like, okay, I'm doing this job, I'm trying to do this job well, that's the action. I'm dealing with customers, I'm doing customer support. But then why am I doing this? That's for my family. So when you say Yudhyacha, Yudhyacha is the action for Arjuna. The purpose of the action is I'm doing this for Krishna. I'm remembering Krishna and that's why I'm doing it. So now generally when we start a new action, what happens is, if you're speaking first time in public, then the action is what dominates the consciousness. So the action is what is here. Okay, should we try some other internet? Okay, let's see. Okay, let's see. And the purpose might be very, very small in the background. But say after we have spoken, maybe even 100 classes you are given. And then remember, why am I speaking? I'm speaking because I want to share Krishna's message. I want to assist Srila Prabhupada's movement. I want to help people raise their consciousness. Then gradually what will happen is, it's not that we will be inattentive about the action, but the action will not be that prominent in our consciousness as the purpose. So how does this happen? Because we become habituated to the action and we become fixed on the purpose. So once that happens, we will be doing our action attentively, but we'll still be remembering, why am I doing this action? Like say a fighter pilot who loves their country, and a fighter pilot is fighting a war to defend their country. Very attentive from where the enemy is attacking, how can I dodge, how can I counterattack, how can I help my other fighter pilots. Very, very attentive. But at the same time, that is the time when they are very, very devoted to their country also. I'm doing this for my country. So that's how the purpose and the action can both be integrated. So that is why now when we practice bhakti, there are two modes of practicing bhakti. If we consider bhakti means remembering Krishna and offering our heart to Krishna. So in bhakti, we can say there is immersive bhakti and there is inclusive bhakti. I could talk about verses which talk about this in the Gita. Now, immersive bhakti means what? We turn away from the world and we immerse our consciousness in Krishna. That is, for example, when we are doing our sadhana, when we're chanting the holy names, when you're doing our puja. I once saw a photo, multitasking, and it was a cartoon basically, multitasking everywhere. That was the title. And what was it showing? There's a person who was doing aarti with one hand and looking at their smartphone with another hand. So now that is not the kind of multitasking we want to do, isn't it? We're doing aarti, we want to offer our conscience fully to Krishna. So that is the time for immersive bhakti. But while immersive bhakti in terms of the importance is very important, in terms of time, we can't be doing it for the major time of our life. We can do it for our sadhana time. Whatever the sadhana time is. And then after that, for the rest of our life, we are doing inclusive bhakti. Inclusive bhakti means we are including the world and our responsibility in the world in the domain of our service to Krishna. We are taking care of our family, we are doing our job, we are doing our social obligations. So in one sense, we can say immersive bhakti helps us to transcend the world. And inclusive bhakti helps us to transform the world. If you are only doing immersive bhakti, Srila Prabhupada could have stayed in Vrindavan. And if he had stayed in Vrindavan, he would have been chanting Hare Krishna. He would have been very elevated consciousness. But he would not have been able to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. When Prabhupada decided to come to America, he had so many practical challenges. He had health challenges, he had financial challenges, logistical challenges. Where was he going to stay? And dealing with all these things to consume his consciousness. And he had to be attentive in all these things. There's not that if any mistake was made, there's nobody else going to fix things for him. He had to fix things. So he was attentive. But it is when we have inclusive bhakti, that's when our bhakti can benefit others. So both these are required. So ideally speaking, how it is our immersive bhakti, it is what empowers us to do inclusive bhakti. If we are not internally connected with Krishna by direct focusing on Krishna for some time, then we won't have the inner focus on Krishna when we are actually doing other activities. And then we'll get consumed by those activities. So going back to the earlier point, we can say that it is our immersive bhakti that reinforces our purpose. And it is our inclusive bhakti that enables us to do the action. So without immersive bhakti, what will happen is, okay, I'm doing this for Krishna, I'm doing this for my own pleasure. It'll become like that. Subtly things will change. So we need immersive bhakti. So our immersive bhakti will give us the inner foundation of our consciousness fixed on Krishna, by which we can do inclusive bhakti. And when we do inclusive bhakti, when we transform when we are able to see that actually I can serve Krishna in the world, and by doing my duties, by doing my responsibilities, by doing various activities, I can actually benefit others also. Then that will inspire us to do immersive bhakti more. And in this way, it will become like a cycle. So it's like consider example of a doctor. A doctor has to focus, a medical student has to focus on getting trained properly in medicine. And then when they are trained, then they go out and they treat people. And they treat people and they say, actually, I'm able to benefit people. Then they say, okay, I really want to learn this medicine stuff better, because then I can help people more. So like that, this immersive and inclusive both go together. Now for Arjuna on the battlefield, which is the form of bhakti he will have to practice? Inclusive, yes. Now Arjuna is already devoted to Krishna in one sense, so that purpose is strong in his consciousness. But the battlefield is the arena for inclusive bhakti. Now Arjuna is asking Krishna, coming back to the starting question of the chapter, he says, I will be on the battlefield now. You told me to constantly remember you. So how can I remember you when I am fighting this war? And that is where Krishna introduces the concept of vibhuti. Now bhuta is actually a variant of bhava. This bhuta and bhava has nothing to this the Hindi, which is say ghost and emotion. It has got nothing to that. Bhuta means existence. So vibhuti means special existence. So Arjuna is asking, how can I remember you when I'm looking at the objects of the world? Bhaveshu. And Krishna says, he talks about vibhuti. Vibhuti means special existence. What does it mean? You can say that there are hundreds of people in the world. Now, just assume there are 100 over here. Now, among them, say there is one person who is very special. Just in terms of physical height, somebody is 7.5 feet tall. It's very special. So Krishna is telling that among various people in the world, various objects in the world, there are some which are special. And he says, see their speciality as coming from me. So everything attractive in everyone comes as a spark of Krishna. Their attractiveness is coming from Krishna. So when Arjuna will see on the battlefield, so Bhishma's phenomenal archery power, or he will see Drona's expertise, when he will see Duryodhana's fighting expertise, even he will see all these warriors on the opposite side or his side, whichever side, says their extraordinary ability is coming from Krishna, because everything attractive comes from Krishna. So rather than saying, okay, this is just mundane and this person is demoniac. Yeah, maybe they're working for demoniac purposes, but their ability is coming from Krishna. So now why specifically Krishna is focusing on this vibhuti, this special existence? Because it is special existence that catches our attention. See, the point was that Krishna is telling Arjuna, you have to remember me. Now, when we are functioning in the world, say, if we may meet 100 people, but we don't remember all the 100 people equally. If somebody is very special, somebody is very good looking, or somebody is very brilliant, somebody is dressed in a very expensive dress. If there's something special about someone, then we remember that person. So special things catch our attention. So what Krishna is saying is, the speciality of all things comes from me. The speciality of all special people comes from me. So vibhuti means that the special existence which is catching your attention, see that its speciality is coming from me, and in this way you can remember me. So say in today's world, a speciality is cricket. So many people's mind gets caught with cricket. Our mind also gets caught with cricket at times. So the idea is, now we say, oh, all cricket is just, it's mundane, there's nothing spiritual in it. Okay, that's true. But within its own reference point, there are some batsmen who are really great batsmen. There are some fielders who are exceptional fielders. There are some bowlers who are great bowlers. And their ability comes from Krishna. Their capacity to attract people comes from Krishna. Sometimes in India, cricketers are so popular that it is sometimes, it's not just that in this IPL, before the tournament, now for the tournament, there are millions of people who come, thousands of people who come live for the stadiums. But even before that, when the cricketers come out to practice, just to see them practice, their stadium is full sometimes. So you say that, what is this? Are people mad? What is there to be so attracted to? Well, yes and no. Because that they are seeing something attractive in that person. And what is that attractiveness? That is a vibhuti of Krishna. If we can say that if a cricketer who has some extraordinary abilities for maybe 10, 15, 20 years, that cricketer can attract people so much, and that person has just a spark of Krishna's attractiveness, then how much more attractive will Krishna be? So when we see any kind of sports mania, I mean cricket mania, so we can dismiss it very easily, but that's not what we need to do. Now I'll talk about, so the concept of vibhuti is where we can actually process the world's attractive things in a Krishna conscious way. So there are two different things over here. See, when we see worldly objects, we can see them as temptations or distractors from Krishna. And they are definitely this way. There are many worldly objects, their attractiveness can distract us from Krishna. But that is not the only way to see those objects. We can also see them as pointers to Krishna. Pointers to Krishna means that the beauty, the quality, the ability, whatever is the attractiveness of this object, this person, this thing, that is a spark of Krishna's attractiveness. And therefore, if this is so attractive, how much more attractive will Krishna be? And in that way, that attractiveness can point us toward Krishna. So another way to understand this, the Vibhuti. Now, what is why when Krishna is talking about Vibhuti? Now, Prabhupada takes this concept of Vibhuti so much. He says that suppose somebody is a drunkard and they cannot give up drinking. He says this on the way to Krishna in that book. He says that if somebody remembers the taste of wine is Krishna, then one day that person will become a devotee of Krishna. Now, it's important what Prabhupada says. Prabhupada is saying, not that by drinking wine you will become a devotee of Krishna. What he's saying, okay, if you cannot give up the taste of, you cannot give up drinking wine, remember that the taste is actually a spark of Krishna's attractiveness. And by remembering Krishna even in that activity, one day you can become a devotee of Krishna. So we could say that this Vibhuti, I started with Krishna talking about this thing about Vibhuti. I talk about the word yogi. How is Krishna yogi? How is he trying to extend himself to us? So through Vibhuti, what is Krishna doing is, Krishna is enabling us to be conscious of Krishna. You can say that, forget everything else, you can remember this one point. Be conscious of Krishna in the things that make us unconscious of Krishna. Be conscious of Krishna in the things that make us unconscious of Krishna. Normally, the things that attract us in this world. Now, some of us may be attracted to music. Maybe some of us are attracted to Bollywood music earlier. Now, we could say that there's a sensuality in that. Okay, there's sensuality, but that doesn't mean that every sensual song is equally good. When I was in America, devotees had organized a program in one college. So I had so many programs, I just didn't think much about it. Going for the program, they asked me. I asked them, which college is this? He says, this is the American Institute of Illusion. So it was basically the university where people learned how to make movies. So they call it the Institute of Illusion. So the point is that actually making illusion is not easy. Now, most of the movies that are made in Bollywood or Hollywood, they bomb. Why? Because the illusion is not good enough. Because the illusion becomes boring and people don't watch it. So actually making good illusion requires ability, requires expertise. So if there are some objects in this world that are so attractive that they are putting us into illusion. Now we don't want to go into that illusion, but we can see in their deluding potency the ability of Krishna, the potency of Krishna. If a movie makes us completely forget everything else, I don't know how 3 hours went away when I was watching this movie. Now I can say one way is I wasted 3 hours. Well, that's one way of looking at it. And sometimes that's the necessary way of looking at it. But another way of looking at it is, that means the movie maker was a good movie maker. They made such a movie that captivated me completely. So similarly, as devotees, when we look at the attractive objects of this world, and we don't have to deliberately go and look at those objects, but we can't function in the world with closed eyes. We will encounter the objects of this world. So at that time, how do we see, in the sense of conceive them, how do we understand them? It is that we perceive of them as manifesting the attractive potency of Krishna. So now, see has itself two meanings. Like the words can have any differences. I see, like two people having a conversation. I see your point. Now that doesn't mean you see a point hanging in the sky, isn't it? I see your point means I understand what you're saying. So when we say how do we see worldly objects, that doesn't mean we have to go and see the objects. We say how do we understand the attractiveness of these objects. So that means that a devotee can be, as I said, we can be conscious of Krishna even in the things that make us unconscious of Krishna. So for somebody is an alcoholic, they may be struggling to give up alcohol. Now they need to see that it's not just alcohol that is tempting them, that is a spark of Krishna's attractiveness. Now, of course, that spark is manifesting in a tamasic activity, and that will take them away from Krishna. But still, it is a spark of Krishna. So, rather than thinking, oh, I have to give this up, we can think that actually, I'm not giving this up. I am connecting with something that is a source of something far better than this. So, that way, let me explain this with an example. I'll make 2 points before I conclude. One point will be about cricket more. So, let's consider this is an ocean. And now, say this is a path along the ocean. And now from the ocean, because of the wind, one drop has fallen here, one drop has fallen here, and one drop has fallen here. So now, now this is just for scale, so this is a long distance, maybe this is miles, many miles over here. And say I am over here, say there's a person over here who is lost, and that person is looking for water. And now that person is looking here, that person can find the drop of water over here, person can see the drop of water over here, they can see the drop of water over here. Now, all drops of water come from the ocean, but all drops of water don't take us toward the ocean, isn't it? If I'm attracted to this drop of water, then I will go away from the ocean. If I'm attracted toward this drop of the water, I'll go closer to the ocean. So similarly, everything attractive comes from Krishna, but everything attractive doesn't take us toward Krishna. So yadyad vibhutivat sattvam shrimad urjitameva va tattadevavagachatvam mamatejo amsha sambhava. Krishna tells Arjuna that every attractive object, it reflects a spark of my splendor. So Bhima's mace fighting ability comes from Krishna. Duryodhana's mace fighting ability comes from Krishna. But Duryodhana's mace fighting ability is not taking either Duryodhana or anyone else in the world toward Krishna. Bhima's mace fighting ability is taking Bhima toward Krishna, and he's helping others, the world move toward Krishna by establishing the order of the world, by establishing dharmic order in the world. So what we need to do is, for each one of us, depending on where we are, say if you could say this is Krishna now, and say this is Sattva-guna. So this is something like knowledge. This is wealth. And this is say liquor. So Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. Now depending on where we are, so when Srila Prabhupada is saying, remember that the taste of wine is Krishna. If somebody is in that regard in Tamoguna, they're not able to give it up. At least remember that this is coming from Krishna. And then gradually that will prompt them to come toward Krishna. So based on where we are right now, we can choose those objects, those attractive objects, whose attractiveness will take us toward Krishna. Say we like music. Now there could be, with music and singing, there could be mundane sensual songs. And the attractiveness of those singers also comes from Krishna. Ability also comes from Krishna. But maybe hearing their singing is not going to take us toward Krishna. But among devotees, there are sometimes very good singers. And they are also singing about Krishna. Their singing ability also comes from Krishna. But that singing ability is going to increase our remembrance of Krishna. So those drops of water will take us toward the ocean. So our idea is not to reject everything attractive in the world. In the world, we appreciate that everything attractive comes from Krishna. But we focus on those attractive objects that take us toward Krishna. And that way we can stay steady on our progress toward Krishna consciousness. So now if we consider cricket now specifically, for most people, everybody looks for some excitement in life. And what happens is, if life is not distressing, then it is boring. Real life is not always very exciting. It can be very troubling at times, but it's not troubling, then it is just flat and monotonous and boring. And then what happens is, people look for some escape way. Say, This is our ordinary material reality. As I said, this on an average tends to be boring. It is sometimes exciting, sometimes distressing, but on average it's just monotonous, it's just boring. Then above this is spiritual reality, which is exciting. Katha Ganam Natyam Gamanam. Vamshi, the Samhita said that. There it's so joyful that every talk is a song, every walk is a dance. Now, most people do not know about spiritual reality. This is a it's too close to each other. This man's okay. So what happens is, because material reality is boring, so we try to create some kind of virtual reality, and where we try to have something exciting. So this could be sports, this could be movies, this could be video games, this could be any form of recreation. And that way we try to get a break. See, ideally speaking, we should raise our consciousness here. And that's where we can get real excitement, which is enduring. But either this is too far away for us, or some people this is too far out. They don't even believe that it's there. So too far away or too far out. And either way, people say that I'm not going to interest in this, or I can't turn toward this. So then we turn over here. Now, this is not a bad thing. Krishna also says recreation is okay, but yukta ahara viharasya, regulated. Yeah, some amount of entertainment is fine as a break. But nowadays, it's like entertainment, it's like people, it's not that people, how should I put it? People don't watch TV as a break from life. They see life as a break from watching TV. Oh, I have to do this job, I have to get this done, I have to get that done. Let me come back and finish, let me watch TV now. So, for many people, it's like that. I saw a cartoon which said that one person is telling another person, yesterday my Wi-Fi broke down, my Wi-Fi went down. So I spent some time with my family. They seem like nice people. So it's like, for people, the real life is not real for them. Their virtual life is more real. And so rather than taking a break from real life, or from material life, you can say, which is presently a real life, to virtual as a temporary break for rejuvenation, we try to make that our real life. And that is problematic. So that obsession is problematic. Now what happens is, when that is all that we are doing, so we could say that this is going towards spiritual growth is like the curative medicine. And sorry, let me put it. So this way is the curative medicine, and this is what you can say pain medicine, pain killing medicine. Now sometimes when a person is very sick and they need they're really in pain, you can have some pain medication. But if they're taking only pain medication and they're not taking any curative medicine, then there are two problems. They're not going to get cured. Also, their disease is going to get worse. And when the disease gets worse, what happens is that they need more pain medication. They need more and more intense pain medication. And that is what we are seeing happening in the entertainment industry. See, in the past, there was test cricket. Now, for most sports players, test cricket is like a test of patience. 5 days you play. No other game is played for 5 days. In the past, chess matches sometimes went on for days, but now they have time limit on that. So now test cricket, it became like, it's not enough of a pain medication. We want a break from life's boredom, but this break itself is boring now. So what do you do? From that we made increase the dose of the painkiller. What did we have? 1 day. Then we had T20. Then, as far as India is concerned, there are two main painkillers. One was cricket and the other was Bollywood. Isn't it? So then finally, Bollywood and T20 got married. And they had a child. Who was that? IPL. also. So IPL is like a double or triple dose of painkiller. You have high action, you have all these Bollywood stars, you have sports superstars. And so at one level, you can say the action is becoming more and more. But what it indicates is that people's life is so boring that they desperately need some break. They desperately need some entertainment. So that points to the emptiness of people's lives. So rather than condemning, why are you so mad for cricket? Or we ourselves may feel that, that I'm also attracted to cricket. Okay, rather than thinking that I should not be attracted, why am I attracted? No, attraction to sports is not a sinful activity. It's just a distracting activity. But why are we distracted? Because what we are doing in our life is either not meaningful or we are not realizing how it is meaningful. Either what we are doing is itself unfulfilling, or maybe it's fulfilling, but we are not intellectually understood how it is important, how it is fulfilling. So that's why we need to address the core. So for us to see in a Krishna conscious perspective, the sports mania, and we may also, I'm not using it in a negative sense, just saying it, it's a mania and the sense people are mad after it right now. That's because their life is so empty and they so desperately need a break from it that they're ready to do anything for it. So anything means that people spend a fortune for just watching one cricket match. I think the previous World Cup was in England, I think, isn't it? So some of the devotees, one of the devotees was telling me his friend went from India to England. And at that time, the tickets for the semi-final and final were like something like 1,500 pounds. One ticket. And you can go to America and come back once or twice in that much ticket itself. So it is huge. Why are people spending that? Because that's the level of emptiness in their life. And when we see this, then we can see that actually for us, by sharing Krishna consciousness, there is an opportunity to truly fill that emptiness. So we see even people's cricket obsession, not just simply as how attached they are, how much in Maya they are, how deluded they are. Rather, we see that how empty their life is without Krishna, that they are going to such extremes to try to fill their life with this. So every obsession seeing every obsession in the world can actually increase a devotee's compassion. And that is the key thing. When we see the worldly obsessions, now we can see the worldly obsessions in others. Again, I'm using see in the second sense, understand. Don't see it, because we might get obsessed by it. It's very easy. Dhyayato vishayan pumsa. As soon as we contemplate, it is of course, after all, Krishna's energy manifesting over there. So it can attract us. So when we see this worldly obsession, we could just call it as Maya and our attitude would be condemnation. It's so much Maya. That's what we may think. But a healthier attitude is compassion. Compassion because there is so much emptiness without Krishna. And when we have this attitude, then every obsession that is there we see in the world, that can actually inspire us to both deepen our Krishna Bhakti and to share Krishna Bhakti with others. Bhaktivinoda Thakur would say that when I see how hard materialistic people work for their sensual pleasures, I feel inspired to work just as hard for Krishna's service. Jiva Goswami prays, Bhaktivinoda Thakur also prays one of his songs that the way a materialistic person attracted to a sense object, my dear Lord, let my heart be attracted towards you. So as a devotee, we can see this with compassion. And then seeing others' material obsessions can actually enhance our Krishna consciousness and can enhance our desire to share Krishna consciousness with others. In this way, a devotee's vision can be Krishna conscious with everything in this world, including the things that can take people's mind away from Krishna. So I'll summarize. I talked here about this 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Let's go over what we discussed. This is too much. So I saw that Arjuna is asking this question in 10th chapter Vibhuti Yoga, Katham Vidyamaham Yogims. How can I remember you? So we discuss how words have different meanings. And Krishna is called Yogi because Krishna is asking Arjuna, you want me to remember you, but how are you helping me to remember you? How are you trying to connect with me? And then in that connection, we discussed how we went backward to the flow of the Gita, that bhava also has multiple meanings. In this material world, how can I remember you? So why this question in material world? Because Arjuna was in the very heart of the material world, about to fight a war. And that time his dilemma was, should I fight or fight or not fight? Should I work or renounce? Krishna told him there are 4 options for you. There is attached work, detached work, artificial renunciation, real renunciation. So Krishna says attached work and artificial renunciation are not to be done. Now, real renunciation is good, but for you, detached work is better. And in detached work, it can range from karma yoga to bhakti yoga. And then Krishna talks about how all the other yogas are good, but they all culminate in bhakti yoga. The Gita is inclusive, but not inconclusive. And then when you talk about bhakti yoga, there seems to be a conflict in the direct instruction. Ma manusmara would mean turning away from the world. Yuddhacha means turning towards the world. So how do we combine these two? So for this, we discuss what does remembrance mean? It is not just factual remembrance or conceptual remembrance. It's a personal remembrance, a remembrance of our relationship and of our responsibility in that relationship, our purpose in that relationship. Just like a parent may remember their child, even when the parent is at their job and the child is somewhere away at school. So normally it is love that leads to this remembrance, but in the case of Krishna, remembrance, consciously cultivated remembrance can also lead to love. So when we say remember, it is more of remembrance with the intention for love, with the desire to develop that love for Krishna. So when we remember a person, naturally we remember our responsibility in relationship with that person, isn't it? So then in that connection we discuss that as Arjuna is a devotee, Arjuna has to do his service to Krishna, that is fighting. So there is the action and the purpose of the action. So the purpose may be in the background, action is in the foreground. But as we become habituated to the action and as we become devoted to the purpose, then what happens? Initially, the action may be in the prominent in our consciousness, but eventually the purpose becomes prominent in our consciousness. And then after that, so for this to happen, we talked about how bhakti is both immersive and inclusive. Immersive means turn away from the world and focus exclusively on Krishna like through our sadhana. Inclusive means do our various sevas in the world. So we need a harmonious blend of both. Immersive bhakti enables us to transcend the world, to connect with Krishna in our heart. And inclusive bhakti enables us to transform the world, to share Krishna with others, to inspire others to connect with Krishna. And then while we are functioning in the world, what do we do? How do we remember Krishna at that time? So while we are functioning in the world, we may encounter hundreds of stimuli, but some stimuli catch our attention. Those are the vibhutis, the special existence. So somebody who is specially attractive, very tall, very powerful, very good looking, very brilliant, whatever. That's what attracts our attention. So we see their special ability as coming from Krishna. So the attractive objects of this world we can see them as temptations, as something that takes me away from Krishna. But you can also see them as having their attractiveness has come from Krishna. These are so attractive, and how much will be Krishna more attractive? So here when we see these objects, it means not focusing our vision on them, but gaining comprehension about them. Like I see your point. So in that we can become conscious of Krishna even in things that make us unconscious of Krishna. For that, I took the example of an ocean, water coming from the ocean. So everything attractive comes from Krishna, but everything attractive doesn't take us to Krishna. So we can acknowledge the attractiveness of Krishna in all objects, but we focus on the attractiveness of those objects which can lead us towards Krishna. And then with that light, we look at entertainment, and specifically at cricket. So people are mad about cricket. Why is that? At one level, it indicates that within cricket, within the ability of cricketers, within the excitement of cricket, there is the opulence of Krishna that is manifesting. And that is why people are attracted towards it. So what is happening is that we talk about these three levels. There is the ordinary level of reality, which is boring. Spiritual level is exciting. But for most people, spiritual reality is either too far away or too far out. And therefore, too far out means unbelievable. So then they turn towards the virtual reality and they try to escape into that. So as a recreation, as a break from life, recreation is okay. But when recreation becomes more important than real life, then that is a high distortion of one's life. So when this is happening, it's like a person takes the painkiller so much that they forget to take the medicine completely. And that is damaging. We talked about how when this happens, people need more and more severe doses of painkillers. And that's what's happening with entertainment now. That it has become more and more passionate, more and more rajasic and tamasic increasing. I speak rajasic. So when we see people obsessed with entertainment, we can simply say how attached they are and how much they are in Maya. Or if we find ourselves attached to it, we may think also, oh, why am I still attached to this? But we can see this. This is actually the power of Krishna's attractiveness. And why are they attracted to this thing and not towards Krishna? Because their life is so empty without Krishna that any drop of water, they're ready to give up everything for it. So rather than seeing it with condemnation, we can see it with compassion. And thus, we can be inspired to both practice immersive bhakti ourselves so that our heart can be filled with Krishna, and then practice inclusive bhakti and share Krishna with others. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Are there any questions or comments? Yes, Mamaji.
We were talking about remembrance, right? With not factual, but mostly personal. And you cited the verse just because by remembering, we are not going to achieve Krishna. But beside from the example of Ajamila, there wasn't no love in his remembrance. No? It was just a name which he uttered, but he still was able to remember.
Okay, good question. So, Ajamil's chanting of the holy names, how did that work? Well, first of all is, Ajamil's chanting did not take him back to Godhead. It only saved him from hell, which is not a small thing, but it's not the same thing as going back to Godhead. So, see, love cannot, if we want to go to Krishna, we have to have some love for Krishna. Without that, we cannot go to Krishna. Now, if I love cricket and somehow I chant Krishna's name at the time of death, I go to Krishna, but in the spiritual world, I'll ask him, what is the cricket score? Isn't it? This spiritual world is not a place of, it's not, going to spiritual world is not a matter of geographical relocation. It's a matter of redirection of our heart. Without that, we cannot attain Krishna. But Krishna's name is so potent that even an indirectly chanted name can save us from sinful reactions. That's the first point. Secondly, that is an exception. It is not that it is, see, in general, scripture uses extreme examples. So even extreme examples can be of both kinds. This is the 6th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. It is a positive example of mercy. That one utterance of the holy name and there's so much deliverance. Then there is a negative extreme example. We have Bharat Maharaj. Little attraction to a deer. And that is also not a Rajasic or Tamasic attraction. He was actually saved that deer and he wanted to protect that deer. But because of that, he had to take another life. So many times, scriptures give extreme examples to emphasize the standard principle. The purpose is to emphasize standard principle. So what is the standard principle? Standard principle is we need to remember Krishna regularly. The Parikshit Maharaj, on hearing the Ajamil pastime, doesn't say, hey, if Ajamil just chanted once and that was enough for him, why do I have to hear 7 days of your Bhagavatam? Just shut up. When the Takshaka comes, I'll remember Krishna. I'll chant Krishna's names. He doesn't think that. Prabhupada also his purport says that if one unintentional chanting of the holy names benefited Ajamil so much, then if we regularly do our chanting, trying to remember Krishna, Won't Krishna be merciful to us? So they emphasize the standard principle. That is the purpose of extreme principles. It is the purpose is not to standardize the extreme. The standardize the extreme example. It is not that everybody can commit sinful activities throughout their life and they will chant the holy names and they will be saved from Yamadutas. That is not the teaching of the Bhagavatam. So both ways, the positive and the negative examples, the extreme examples are given for what? To emphasize the standard principle. This principle can be extended by Krishna's mercy to such an extent. But that standard principle can apply to everyone. Won't it will surely apply to us. So that's the broad understanding of that. Okay. Any other question? Yes, please.
Thank you very much. The immersing and visual is really nice.
Yeah.
While explaining the detachment and what, so you have shown that that work and results. So we are not attached to result, but we do carefully the work so that we get the results for higher purpose.
Correct.
But when we have a target to use the results for higher purpose, and we are trying to do it carefully, that means we may get attached to it.
Correct. So, well, if I consider over here, okay. See, when we are doing the work, in general, if I'm moving in this direction, it is goals, they do many things. They bring focus, they bring energy. So goals are very important. Focus in terms of attention, energy is in terms of action. We need goals to work. And Arjuna set goals every day in the Kurukshetra war. Most famously on the 14th day, after the 13th night when Abhimanyu was killed. What was the goal that Arjuna set? I will bring down Jayadratha before the sunset next day. Now Krishna did not say to Arjuna, hey, you forgot karmanevadhikaraste. Why not? Because there is a difference. There's a difference between goals and results. And what is the difference? Goals are what we set before we do the action. And results are what, say, if I have completed the action now, say the action was, say I was going along this path like this, and this is where the action was done. Now the action is done, and after the action is done, then sometime in the future I'll get the result. Like I gave an exam. Now what are the results going to be in the exam? I don't know that. So when Krishna is saying, this is a key point, that goals are not the same as results. Goals come before the action, and results come after the action. So when Krishna is saying, don't be attached to its phala, it is not dheya. Gola is dheya. Phala is fruit or result. So before we do an action, we do it wholeheartedly. We try to do it as well as we can. Suppose after this program there is prasad. We don't suppose prasad is there. But those who have cooked that prasad, if they are detached from the quality of the prasad, we won't be detached from expressing our annoyance, isn't it? So if you're doing something for Krishna, we're doing for anything, we want to do it well, isn't it? So we want to do it well, no doubt about it. But after we have done our part, we understand that the results are not in my control. The results are determined by factors beyond me also. I am a factor. If you look at the 4 parts of that verse, karmannevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. Why? Ma karma phala heturpur. Because you are not don't think of yourself as the sole cause of producing the results. Now, certainly we are one factor, but we are not the sole factor. So we have to do our part. So we could say broadly, when phala comes, I've discussed this earlier in our classes, karma plus daiva plus kala. leads to phala. Karma is our duty. Daiva is destiny. Kala, it's KL, you can put it as KM. This is duration. There are 3 Ds. They lead to the desired result. So what Krishna essentially is saying is that we have to do this wholeheartedly. So to do our duty, we need to set goals wholeheartedly. But after we have done our duty, the desired result is not in our hands. Because destiny plays a role, duration plays a role. Results may come, but not immediately. So at that time, we need to be detached. Why detached? Because there are other duties to be done at that time. So if a student has given one exam and then maybe the results are going to come after 1 month. Now student shouldn't just be constantly just, okay, what will happen after 1 month? What will happen in 1 month? Well, use that 1 month well, do something else. So we have many duties to do. After one duty is done, then we let go of it. So we do our part as well as possible in getting the results. But we understand that the results are not caused by us alone. So that's why it is not just ma phaleshu kadachana, it is karmanna eva dhikaraste. It is our duty is important and we have to do it. But because there's a philosophical understanding that I alone don't produce the results. And that's why I'm not attached to the results. Attached in the sense here is fixated on the results. And I don't think of anything other than the work itself. And if we were not to care for the results at all, then why would we do the work only, isn't it? And Krishna is saying, mate sangostva akarmani. So don't be attached to not doing their duty also, your duty also. That's the way to understand this verse. Okay. So phala is in terms of fruits, no. Results, no. But in terms of goals, yes. Goals is very important. Prabhupada would now book distribution marathon is coming next month. Prabhupada would set goals, isn't it? And that's what inspired devotees to do service. Thank you. So, okay, last question. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I've got a question on the same principle of detached work. So, when a mother takes care of her child, how can she practice the principle of detached work with taking their life?
Okay. So, thank you. If a mother is taking care of her child, what would detached work mean in that sense? Yes, it certainly doesn't mean not caring for the child. It doesn't mean not caring what the child does. But it means recognizing, I would say 2-3 things. We had a session on parenting. Were you there for that session by any chance? Okay, no problem. But it means one thing is we need to be detached from our expectation of how our child should be. Because the child is an individual in their own right. And every child is a soul. The soul brings certain impressions from their previous life. And we can't remake our child in our image. The child has an individuality which may be different from who we are. So there are certain things which are certainly some behavior is unacceptable. And that we have to curb it. The child is, say, rude or arrogant or irresponsible. That needs to be corrected. But the child has some interests different from what we want to them, we would like them to have. Okay, their interests are natural, we accept them. So detach means that we don't expect too much from the child. We don't expect the child to just become we can't remake the child in our image. So in general, with here detachment means in any relationship, there are 2 things. There is accepting the other person and there is expecting from the other person. Both are there. Now we could say in a parental relationship, generally we expect the child to do this, do that. But detach means sometimes they may just not be able to do what we expect them to do. That's not their nature, that's not their ability, that's not their interest. They need to accept that. So accepting the individuality of the child, accepting the limitations of the child, that is the detachment. So in that sense, detachment is not absence of emotion. Detachment is absence of control by emotions. So this is very important point. What does when we say detachment in bhakti? Bhakti is essentially about emotions. It is not absence of emotions. Absence of emotions means I don't just care for that person. It is not this. What is it? It is absence of, do you remember? Of control by emotions. Control by emotions means how can you do like this? You did like this, get lost. You do like that. We become angry, we feel hurt, we feel irritated, we feel betrayed. And then those emotions alone determine the relationship. So we could say that Dhritarashtra was very attached to Duryodhana. And now that attachment is also the opposite of detachment. But that was also what happened was, even in the attached case, he was controlled by his emotions. Isn't it? He couldn't do anything that would displease Duryodhana. And that's why Duryodhana manipulated him, played him like a fiddle. And Duryodhana's evil nature was facilitated and fueled by Dhritarashtra. So, for us, both in our relationships, if we consider, we don't want detachment, we don't want attachment. What we want is engagement. By engagement means we engage with the other person as they are and as they can be. When attached means we just focus on pleasing that person. And that is not what the parents definitely want to take care of the children. A part of that is pleasing the children also. But a parent, if a child says, morning, afternoon, evening, the only meal I'll take is chocolates. The parents can't please the child by giving chocolate as the main meal all the time. Isn't it? So we cannot be attached like that to the child. But you cannot be detached also in the sense I don't care for you. But detached in this case means that we're not controlled by emotions. So we engagement here means, as the engagement means, accept the child as the child is right now and expect the child to become better. But there are some things in which that expectation will fulfill, some things will not be fulfilled. So we are ready to accept that. That is detachment. So detachment is not absence of emotion. It is absence of control by emotions. Okay? So thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.